your victory is guaranteed. Now, because some of us live a lifestyle of trusting God, we are not surprised when we get the victory. We are never caught off guard when God blesses us, promotes us, sends us better, does for us the good measure, the press, the shaking, and the running. You shall speak my words to them. Here he is again. Whether they hear or whether they refuse, he says it again, for they are rebellious. You know, these has to be some hard-headed folk. You see how God is just stressing that these folks are something else, Ezekiel. Now you see why his name means God will strengthen. He's going to need empowerment to deal with these kind of people. Am I right about it? Notice in verse 8 as we conclude. But you, son of man, hear what I say to you. Do not be rebellious like that rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat what I give you. Notice God tells Ezekiel. Now Ezekiel, in dealing with these rebellious people, so you have to be careful when you deal with rebellious folk. He says to him, don't you become rebellious. In other words, Ezekiel, don't let that spirit, that attitude that they have that I don't like, don't allow that to become your attitude. Do what I'm telling you to do, Ezekiel. Do what I'm telling you to do, Ezekiel. Obey my words. Listen, and don't allow people to cause you to get out of my will. Because when you boil it down, most of the time that people get out of God's will, it's a person that they're dealing with. Come on, I say it's a person that it's a person that they're listening to. It's a person that they're hanging with. Can I break it down? It's a person that they're living with. It's somebody that they're working with. Most of the time when people get out of God's will, Paul dealt with the same type of folk in the book of Galatians. Remember when he asked an entire church, who has bewitched you? Not what, but who. Paul knew it was a person. Listen, saints, if we're going to be in agreement with God, if we're going to be in covenant with God, we have to be careful of who we hang with. We have to be careful who we listen to. And you have to be careful whenever you're dealing with people who are rebellious toward God. Notice why that is important tonight. In 1 Samuel, notice, because again, God continued to call these folk rebellious time and time. He did not want it to leave Ezekiel's mind who he was dealing with. And let me show you why. Notice 1 Samuel. I'm going to show you something about rebellion. 1 Samuel 15 and verse 23. Notice what he said. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Now notice what Samuel tells Saul. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you from being king. See, rebellion caused Saul something. And whenever we walk in rebellion, whenever we walk in disobedience, it's going to cost us something. Never think that your job is your security and that because of what you make or because of what you possess, you don't have to obey God. That's a trick of the enemy. Come on, somebody. That's a trick of the enemy. Anytime we rebel against God, I don't care how long you've been saved, how long you've been walking with him, I don't care how much Bible you know about him, that's going to cost you something. I said it's going to cost you something. Notice that Samuel tells Saul that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Meaning that they're not just rebellious, but it's demonic. It's demonic. The reason some folks are rebellious is that it is demonic. Demons are influencing, listen to me carefully, God's people not to obey him. You wonder when you look at certain people who you know they know better, yet they are not doing better. In many cases, demons are involved and they're influencing that person not to obey God. Now we know when it comes to the sinner that the sinner is possessed with demons. But as a child of God, I warn us that we can be influenced by demons, by evil spirits, listen, not to obey God. But notice back in Ezekiel, because notice how Ezekiel is warning, or God is warning Ezekiel, I should say, that the people he's giving the word to are being influenced by the devil. And in any time that's the case, you're going to have to come with a strong word. That's the reason the word is so strong, because God is letting them know whether you obey or whether you refuse. Listen to me. He's still going to be God. See, I don't hurt God when I don't obey him. I hurt me. Woo, I say I don't hurt God when I don't obey him. I hurt myself. Oh, can I break it down? You don't hurt pastor when you don't obey God. You hurt yourself. You don't hurt pastor when you hypocrite. When you act like you obeying in church, but you live in a different way outside of church, you're not hurting pastor. You are hurting yourself. Am I right about it? That's when he wants them to know. Look, Ezekiel, you're going to give them the word, whether they obey or whether they refuse. And then he tells Ezekiel, but one thing is for sure, they going to know that they heard from a prophet. Why is that important? Because at the time Ezekiel was prophesying, in the same land of Babylon, there were false prophets who were also prophesying, who were telling the people that they was okay the way they was. God had even sent Ezekiel to his people so that he could see for himself all the abominations that they were committing. And so notice when we get to Ezekiel 18 and 31, the word is coming to Israel, saying to them in verse 31, watch it carefully, cast away from you all the transgressions that you have committed. Cast them away. Change. There needs to be a turn. He don't want them to just repent in that they're going to say, Lord, I'm sorry. No. Because we got to understand, when we say to God, we sorry, that needs to be followed up with us getting rid of, come on, what displeases God. You can say all day, Lord, forgive me. Lord, I'm sorry. But if you don't get rid of the thing that displeases him about you, you can say you're sorry all you want. Right? The same with me. God is looking not just for words. Are words important? Yeah, they have their place. They're important. But the most important thing is our actions. And notice what he tells them. He said, cast away from you all the transgression. A transgression means that he's calling them out for violating his law or his word. You have violated my word. You have broken my covenant. And he tells them, cast away these transgressions. Put away these idols. Get rid of these things that displease me. See, God is talking to somebody tonight. You got to get rid of what you know you're doing that God is not pleased with. Because God cannot bless a mess. Listen, no matter how much God want to do for his people, he can't do it if they're transgressing against him. Notice what he said in Ezekiel 18:31. Hang in here. And cast away from you all the transgressions which you have committed. Basically, God is saying with them, knowing what they're doing, I'm going to put it in my own word. God is telling them, stop playing with me.